So the biggest news this week is the Game Award nominees have come out for the Keeleys. Ooh, Jeff Keighley being a Sony pony yet again. Oh, Jeff, what have you done? Are you excited for the Game Awards, Davey?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's always now that E3's gone, what
That's
was
true.
E3 is dead. This is the only time of the year that you get a proper show.
Yeah,
Like
fair.
directs and showcases and all these different things, they're okay, but they're never as good as somebody coming out on stage and talking through it. So it's like the only real event we have now for gaming. So I
So,
really do look forward to it every year.
yeah, I mean, I get that like an announcement show, it's great, but as an actual award show, it's kind of pants. Like they never the awards themselves always seem to be like second fiddle to like, oh, and then there's this announcement here. Ooh, I wonder if we'll see Hellblade for the fourth time without actual any gameplay again. Like, come on now.
Oh, like tell you what, it's about time not to derail this 100%, but it's about damn time they show something for that game in it.
Yeah, well, it's
Like
supposed to be coming out
it,
this year now, or next year. It's supposed to be coming out 2024, so fingers
it's
crossed.
wild. It's wild, and the amount of people that are like, "Oh no, that's definitely gameplay." It's like,
Yeah.
no, it ain't. Like I remember the Killzone 2 trailer. No, that ain't gameplay. Like no chance.
I
There's
mean,
no way.
it's as much gameplay as like in Spider-Man 2 where you're pushing a button for like something to happen. Like it's like a
Yeah,
cutscene, yeah. Essentially, it's a
yeah, no
cutscene,
chance.
which is nice, but it's in engine. Yay! But yeah, we're not really here to discuss what we think's going to be at the Game Awards. Maybe we'll do that next week or whenever we do our next podcast. But we're here to discuss the nominees. I got a big list of stuff I wanted to discuss, so we'll just crack on with. We'll start off with the most important one: Game of the Year, 2023. Uh, so Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, Resident Evil 4, Baldur's Gate 3, Mario Wonder, and Zelda. I believe that's all of them. I'm remembering that off the top of my head. I don't have the list up, but that was just off the top of my head, off the cuff.
Great memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, great memory.
Um, I think all of them deserve to be up for Game of the Year. Me personally, I had a lot more fun with Starfield than I did Spider-Man, but that's just a personal taste thing. Uh, I mean, like, obviously, there's a video on our channel now of me going, Starfield's been snubbed. But really, that was more of an SEO kind of thing. Because I know people react more to me being angry if I was just like, no one would care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean. And you got to play the game. You got to
You
play
go
the
for
game.
the game, yeah, and also like people will, oh, that's clickbait, whatever. But this is a list of snubbed stuff. So I put down games that I think could have been up for it. So like Starfield got one award out of 31 awards. It was only nominated for one award, which is like that's. I think that's more of what's annoying me than anything. If I can understand it not being up for Game of the Year because a lot of people, it's like Marmite. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people like it. But the music in Starfield is amazing. The sound effects, the art style, the narrative, the writing, like a lot of it is really good. I don't understand how it only got nominated for one award. The whole out of all 31 awards, it only got one nomination for
Which one is it up for?
best RPG, which Baldur's Gate's going to win. But
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. Forgot Baldur's Gate in there.
I mean, that's at the end of the day. I was going to say like the thing with the Game Awards is like Zelda and Baldur's Gate are going to win everything anyway. So who really cares who's nominated? Because everyone, no one else is winning anything.
Yeah. I think you're right.
But yeah, so I mean, Starfield's the main snub for me. But then I think one of your Game of the Years is Final Fantasy 16. Are you upset that that didn't make it into the Game of the Year conversation?
I mean, it's a difficult one because for me, it's my personal game of the year, right? Definitely is. But when you compare it to like you've already mentioned, the likes of like Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3, and even RE4, I'd
Yeah.
even chuck that in on the same level, right? They're all just so good that this year is just stacked.
Oh yeah.
And you've got to really knock it out the park. I think for me, the categories that FF16 has been put up for in terms of its music and in terms of its voice acting, I
Yeah.
reckon it's going to sweep. I reckon it's going to absolutely sweep. The thing that I don't get though, right? And you mentioned about RPG, is that for whatever reason, FF16 is in best RPG when it really isn't an RPG. It's
Yeah.
an action game. So it's weird that it's even there because it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like as if it fits there. Whereas I think if it was in action, I think it would sweep that category. I think it would absolutely body everything there.
Yeah.
But it's not been put in there for some reason.
Liza
don't know
P.
why.
Liza P is also down for best RPG, when I would say that's an action game as well. I don't understand why Liza P's down as the best RPG either. The kind of categories don't make any sense to me, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, I mean, I haven't played Liza P yet. I haven't played it, but
No, I
if it's
haven't
anything
either.
like the Souls games that came before it, the ones that have really
Like
inspired
Bloodborne, yeah.
Liza P, like Bloodborne and everything else, then I could see that being classed as an RPG. I really can because it
Okay.
is all about leveling up your character. You spec into different abilities, into different weapon classes, that kind of thing. It is more of an RPG than an action game, right? Something like Souls is, I
Okay.
would say, even though it doesn't have. And I suppose this is where category is always a difficult thing because, like a traditional RPG is something like, as you said, like Starfield or
Yeah.
like an old school Final Fantasy where it had like proper class based systems and things like that. Nowadays, so many things are like RPG light, aren't they? Where you
Yes.
got like skill trees or you got different things you spec to.
Exactly. I was gonna say
Bit
like
muddy now.
even like Spider-Man 2 has RPG elements. Like literally every game ever has
Yeah.
RPG elements now. So yeah, I can totally get that. Yeah, the categories for this year are a bit strange. The other two games I would say got really snubbed: Octopath Traveler 2 and Hogwarts Legacy. I haven't played either of those games, but I've heard good things about both. Hogwarts Legacy, I think probably down to the J.K. Rowling controversy. I imagine that it didn't get any nominations, but that's a shame that a game's is getting snubbed because of something that's out of its control and not really anything to do with it. It seems a bit odd to me. I haven't played it, but I've heard good things about Hogwarts Legacy, and it's one of the best-selling games of the year as well. So, I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think it's been snubbed because of J.K. Rowling, or do you think it's just not made the cut? I don't know.
I think it's a bit of a combination, right? I think it's a combination of things. When you release a game so early in the year, it's
Yeah.
always quite hard then to be able to come up in conversation at the end of the year. And recency bias is a real thing that goes through all of us, let alone video game critics, because they're the ones that put these kind of lists together, and then the public obviously have their say, don't they, on a lot of things.
It's true.
So I think that's probably half the battle, is that
Yeah.
it came out so early that it's quite hard to be able to carry forward that kind of momentum into this part of the year. So I think that definitely goes against it.
Yeah.
And then maybe there is another side of it where there's people are afraid to kind of back it and have it out there. Personally, I think that's a really pussy ass move if someone is scared. Say
Yeah.
like, at the end of the day, you're entitled to like what you like, right? And for me, I mean, the recency bias thing does make a bit of sense, but then Dead Space did manage to come in the awards,
Yeah.
and it got in there for best audio design.
Yeah.
So then you think, right, well, the presentation front for Hogwarts looked insane,
Yeah.
like absolutely insane. It looks wild. And as you said, it sold absolutely gangbusters this year. Huge, huge launch. So I'm surprised it didn't come up in anywhere. It's just wild to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
What I was also going to say is that I find it interesting because, like, Starfield and the Hogwarts and stuff was a bit more mainstream. It got more into the zeitgeist and, like, popular culture, which I think is interesting because, like, it always makes me think of, like, the Oscars and stuff, that, like, films like Star Wars or, like, basically, like, popular films will never get nominated for these big awards, like, ever. Like I feel like critics and mainstream audiences have a different taste, and I feel like Starfield is like probably the audience's game of the year. I'd imagine a lot, like, it's sold really well, and a lot of people really love it, but it's not got any nominations at all, which is like really interesting. And then obviously Call of Duty, which is garbage this year, but it's still sold a lot. And that's got no nominations either. So
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you can put Starfield in that camp. Sure, it sold well, but I mean, the game of the year list, these are all really popular games, right?
That's true.
Like,
like Spider-Man.
take out,
I mean,
yeah,
Spider-Man.
Spidey's there. Like, Tears of the Kingdom, when that launched earlier this year, that was all everyone was talking about, right? Like,
That's true.
it was took over Twitter. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
And same with Spidey has been doing at the moment. So I don't know. I wouldn't give Starfield that pass to say that's what it is. I think it's just a case that, for me anyway, looking from the outside in, it doesn't do enough to get anywhere near the categories. It's not a technical masterpiece. It's not impressive really on a visual front in any way, shape, or form. I can't speak on the score and the music or anything like that, but it seems like as if it's just more of the same, right? In terms of like what they did before. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that in any way, shape, or form. I mean, that, you know, Bethesda do make some incredible games that have a lot of legs.
Yeah.
But it's not like when Skyrim came out, right? And Skyrim was like huge and it was like new and it felt like really exciting. Whereas this was like, oh, it's just the same kind of buggy mess that we're used to with Bethesda, right? So there's that kind of thing.
I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good game, high quality in a lot of ways. I think it got a lot more criticism than it deserved personally, but that's just my personal take on it. But I can understand it not being up for Game of the Year, as I said earlier. I'm just disappointed it didn't get nominated for any of the other awards. It's kind of like a bit of a bummer, but there you go. It's just one of those things, isn't it? But yeah, like Game of the Year, I'm interested. I voted for Zelda. That's got my vote personally. I don't know if you voted on it at all. Did you vote on it?
Haven't yet. I
Right.
think out of the choices I've got there, my vote should probably go Zelda because that's the only game this year I believe I've given a solid 10 out of 10, and I haven't even finished it. But I know it's just incredible. But after how much I love Separate Ways and how much I love the original, I might even chuck RE4 in a vote.
Ooh.
Yeah, I might
No,
too.
it's fair. So I mean, that's later on in this. I got like a big list of stuff to discuss. But I think we'll discuss it now. Do you think that a remake or a remaster should be up for Game of the Year? I personally think, yeah, Resident Evil 4 deserves it. I think it's really worth it. But I've seen this Discord online a lot. I think a lot of people have been saying that they don't think Resident Evil 4 deserves it because it's a remake. I mean, what do you think? I personally think it is, but
I think it's a bit of a muddy issue because it all depends on what kind of style of remake they go down. So, for example, Dead Space, right, is pretty much a one-to-one remake. There's improvements which came from like Dead Space 2 and 3 that they brought back into Dead Space 1 to improve the experience. But realistically, you're playing the same Dead Space experience that we played back in 2008, right? There's no real crazy differences. It's kind of the same way that like RE1 remake is to RE1, right? That
yeah,
it's the best version of that, and it's a deeper, more nuanced experience compared to the original. But it doesn't change too much, right? Whereas RE4 remake is completely different to base RE4. Like
that's true.
the two games side by side, the same kind of key plot events happen, but that's about it. Game plays completely differently. It's actually a horror game. It's actually
Yeah,
got like survival management and survival horror parts to it, whereas the
yeah,
original definitely doesn't. So I think RE4 remake should be here because it is so tonally different.
yeah.
Whereas something like Dead Space, I'm not surprised isn't here because I don't think it does enough to separate itself out. And that doesn't take away from the fact that Dead Space remake is incredible. I love it. But when it comes to Game of the Year voting, I think there's a big difference. It's the same reason that, you know, if they do another remake of, say, Ocarina of Time,
Yeah.
and it's exactly the same, just prettier, should that be up? No.
No.
Even though it's like the best game ever, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be there.
Well, a Metroid Prime Remastered came out this year. I gave that a 10 out of 10, but I don't think that should be up for Game of the Year either. It's just a remaster
No.
of a really, really good GameCube game. Yeah, but I agree with you when it comes to Resident Evil 4. It's like I was gonna say, like the thing I always say with Resident Evil 4 is you play the intro scene where you're trying to get like survive in the village. It's very similar to the original, but it's different enough that you feel it's like a new experience. It's like, oh yeah, that's this. I remember this village. It looks very similar, but well, actually, that's a different place. This platform's in a different place. Oh, I don't remember this enemy being here. Like it's changed enough that it feels new and fresh, and I think it's well deserving of Game of the Year. It's one of my game of the years as well. I would say it's like in my top 4 games of the year for sure. I think it's worth it. I think it's a very good game. But I wanted to be Devil's Avocado. Wanted to speak for the people who say that online, which I think it's a fair opinion to have. I think maybe what they could do in the future Game Awards is maybe have a remake/remastered category. I think that's something they should probably do, because remakes and remasters are becoming more and more of a thing, and because companies are too scared to make new things, so have a remaster award. I mean, there's loads of really good ones. As we've just said a couple ourselves, Dead Space. You can have Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Metro Prime remastered. And I'm sure there's others that I could think of. we could get this category sorted for this year. But yeah, I still think Resident Evil 4 deserves a nom, so I'm not too mad. Okay, next up, Bungie/Destiny 2 is up for the best community after firing all their community staff and all the fans hating it and being mad at Bungie, and it makes no bloody sense why that would be up for best community.
So yeah, the categories they got for this right now, this is what they say about best community support. They say it's recognizing the game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness, inclusive of social media activity and game updates and patches. And the nominees they got for this: Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14, and No Man's Sky. Right? Those are the people up there. I mean, Destiny 2 is wild. Like you say, I think it's absolutely crazy. Now, I'm not part of the Destiny 2 community. I'm not really too involved with it.
No.
But from the news I've been covering on in PS We Trust lately, is not good over on the Destiny 2 front. So I'm very surprised this is here, especially with how much the player base at the moment seems to be escaping the game. Now, the one that I'm surprised about didn't get a mention here is Dead by Daylight.
Ooh. Yeah.
So fucking shocked it didn't get anything.
That's fair.
Because Dead by Daylight community has been eating well. Now, like any community, no one's ever truly happy, right? Like, all I go online, obviously I play a lot of Apex Legends, I play a lot of Dead by Daylight, and all the community are always complaining about, oh, the devs aren't listening to this, they're not patching this, they're not doing that, they're not doing this. But then I think about Dead by Daylight this year, and they've had the Nick Cage update, right? So Nick Cage came into the game.
Yeah.
They brought the Xenomorph in, they brought a host of new killers, and now they got Chucky.
Ooh.
It's like, I mean, what more do you want from them at the moment? They're doing so much, and it's all just these updates they just keep on putting into the game and trying to make it better. And are they succeeding in that? Probably not fully, but content out the wazoo, and that's what you want from a live service game. And especially when they're leaning now, they just brought back the Stranger Things add-ons, which went away for a couple of years, so they've just got the license back. So all the Stranger Things Matt Hawkins is back. You can buy the Demogorgon again. You can buy like all the survivors like Nancy and Steve and all these. So I think they're killing it, and I'm surprised they're not here. That's the big takeaway from me here.
I saw the trailer for the Stranger Things being in there, and I'm like, I thought the Stranger Things were already in there, so I didn't realise they'd been removed and been put back in. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think 343 deserves a nod on this one. They've really fixed Halo, and like the Halo community's back. Everyone seems to be loving Halo Infinite at the moment. Season 5 was absolutely incredible. As I said earlier, they got the Halo 3 maps in the new Halo playlist. It's like they've managed to save the game, and the community's been really good. And like, if it wasn't for the community, Halo would be dead. Like, literally, the community has saved this game. I think the community support. If there's any nod, it should have been for this one personally. I think, but there you go. It's just, I think it's weird that you put Bungie in there. I think that's very odd, personally, but there you go. It's Jeff Keighley for you. What do you expect? So these two kind of tie in together, these next two subjects I wanted to talk about. So I mentioned this before the show, that people have been going on about an Xbox media bias. Ooh, is Xbox being snubbed every year? Does Jeff Keighley have beef with Xbox? Oh, I personally don't think so, but it's worth looking into because people have been mentioning it. I think there is some kind of subconscious bias a little bit, but that's like per person. Like I think everyone has their biases, right? And PlayStation's a more popular console, so to be honest, like it makes sense that it would be nominated more. I mean, does that make sense to you? Like for me personally, I would vote for Xbox games over PlayStation games, so I'm biased, and you would probably be biased for PlayStation games because you play PlayStation more. But I don't think there's like a big conspiracy. Like, don't get your tinfoil hats out, people. Uh, I don't know what you think. Do you think there's some kind of media bias?
No, I really don't. No, and I think ultimately what this should show, right? And I think this would be quite interesting. And I think we should probably do this. I probably should have prepped this before going in.
No,
But
that's cool.
what what I've done is I pulled up the last what's this? The last 9 years or 10 years worth of the Game Award winners, right?
Oh God.
And what I think we should do is we should go on Metacritic and have a look for those years what the highest scoring game is on Xbox for each of those years, and then we can see then if there is something. Because say for example, like last year, obviously Elden Ring won, right?
Yes, which was fair.
And I think the second place when it comes to most awards was God of War,
God of
Ragnarok.
War, Ragnarok, yeah.
Last year we know we don't even have to Google. Last year we know it was a write-off for Xbox. It wasn't a great year, was it?
No.
2022.
It was Pentiment got 10 out of 10s and did quite well, and Grounded.
Vampire Survivors.
Oh yeah, but that's not really an Xbox. It's kind of an Xbox exclusive, but it's not really. It's like a second party, so I wouldn't really count it, even though I love it. 2021 was egregious, I think, because Forza Horizon 5 was IGN's Game of the Year, and it had very high reviews, and it didn't even get a nomination, which I thought was a bit egregious for 2021. But then it's a racing game. It's like, I feel like there's, like, as you were saying earlier about the Oscars having their like thing, it's like I feel like third-person action adventure games always get the nod over like racing or fighting games. Like it'd be very odd. Like Street Fighter 6 was a great game this year. I wouldn't expect to see that in Game of the Year either, because they don't. There seems to be certain genres that seem to get picked over others. I guess I don't know, or maybe I'm being crazy.
No, I think you're right. I think like a racing game can only do so much, right? There's no narrative, is there, in a racing game?
No.
So it could have like the best. It's the same way that you won't really see like a shooter. So I wouldn't expect to see like
not again
Apex Legends win, right? Even though to me it's got like the best shooting ever, right? I love what they've done there over at Respawn, but when you compare that to something that's got incredible gameplay and a great story, that trumps it, doesn't it, straight away? And I think that's where racing games kind of get let down in that aspect. But I'm going on to Metacritic now because I think this would just be quite interesting to be able to frame the conversation in terms of where we go. And so I'll put it to Xbox Series. I'll put it from here we go. So these are the best games on the platform at the moment, right? So there's 323 games here. I'm ranking it by Metascore. And I'm doing it from release year. I'm going to go back as far as, well, I don't know how far back this goes. Let's have a look.
Yeah, we probably
it's a slider, which goes all the way back to 1910. Right?
What?
So obviously there's no game. Yeah, there's no games back there. But I'm going through here now, and I'm gonna go through this. Is ranked from the top game on Xbox is Elden Ring, right? A 96 on Metacritic.
Great game.
I'm gonna go down until I find an exclusive, right? So you got Forza Horizon 5, as you mentioned.
Yep.
So that's 7th on the list at a 92. You got Flight Sim. Again, that would fall similar vein to the problem that Forza Horizon has in terms of
niche.
You know,
it's a niche.
It's very niche, and it's just a sim. And apart from that, my friend, I'm now on.
We're talking about
page 2.
Okay.
So I'm in the top 50 now. That's it.
Is that ever, or are we talking like the last 10 years, or like what are we talking here?
I got Judging on this, what games to play on your Xbox Series X and S
Oh,
platform?
Series X. Okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So Series X, Series X, Series X.
Oh yeah, okay. So that's fair because obviously Combat Evolved, like the original Halo trilogy, were really well received, obviously, and
Oh
the original
yeah,
Gears of Wars and stuff. But yeah, recent history, I guess, like as I said, Pentiment did really well, and Forza. But I feel like Forza is the more egregious than Starfield. To be honest, I'm still annoyed by that. 2 years later, the Forza didn't get a nod. But you know, that's just one of those things, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. I'm going back through this. I've
Well,
added
so
Xbox One in as well into
okay.
this,
Also,
and there's just nothing.
yeah, what I was going to say is that Hi-Fi Rush was really good this year as well, and I would have liked to have seen that in the Game of the Year, but that has got some love, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it is interesting about the media biased narrative. I don't know. I'm not really behind it. I mean, the whole Xbox One generation, Xbox kind of just gave up on gaming, and now they're starting to come back. So it makes sense that there was no nominations for those years. I do think it's a bit weird that Forza Horizon didn't get the nod, or like not like a single nomination, or Starfield didn't get a single nomination. I think that's a bit strange. But you know, look, it's
I
Jeff.
mean,
You know, it's Jeff Keighley in it. You know, like it's his opinion at the end of the day, or his friends, or whoever like you know, it's opinions at the end of the day, isn't it? It's not.
it's game critics, right? So
Yeah.
all game critics go together and they put together their lists. They have to put together their list for the best games, and then the winners of those, whoever gets the most popular, go into the Game of the Year category, and then it goes from there, right? So that's how it works. And yeah, there's looking over these past number of years. I think for me personally, looking from the outside in, as not an Xbox owner, right, that it just shows that Xbox just need to up the game. They really do. And Starfield is a great start. You know, this year is definitely a huge turning point from where it was a year ago, or
Yeah.
2 years ago, or even 3 years ago. So I'm hoping that this is just a start, and you start looking from the outside in. They're just not there yet. And until they are, they're not going to be on this list. And I think it's as simple as that. And especially with how much, you know, third-party publishers are really up their game with the likes of like Baldur's Gate and Resident Evil 4 this year.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
Nintendo and Sony is showing up, but Xbox just ain't there yet.
I think if Starfield came out last year or came out next year, it would definitely get a nomination for Game of the Year. I just think this year has been stacked.
Last year was nuts, bro. Last year you had Elden Ring, God of War, Ragnarok,
Yeah.
and Horizon. I
Wow.
mean,
I would say those two. Horizon is a bit lower down. God of War and Elden Ring, I agree with. It's the same as this year, though. Zelda and Baldur's Gate, they're the top two. And then everything else is just there to fill the spaces. Yeah. I don't know. I think if it was a quieter year, I think it would have had more of a chance. I don't.
Yeah.
But I was going to say the thing that contradicts the Xbox media bias is the Hi-Fi Rush, and also this also flies in the face of the recency bias we were talking about as well, because this came out in January. Is up for 5 different awards in the Game Awards this year. That's Xbox's best game this year. I really loved Hi-Fi Rush. So I just got a list on my phone of. So it's up for best action game, best art direction, best audio design, best score and music, and innovation and accessibility. So it's up for 5 different awards. So, you know, if there is an Xbox media bias, it doesn't count this Tango Gameworks. They somehow slip through the net. So, you know, you can't say there's a media bias and then Hi-Fi Rush gets 5 different nominations for 5 different awards. I would have loved to have seen it got the nod for Game of the Year, but I could see it. The Game of the Year was such a stacked year this year. I can see why it didn't get the nod for that. But I love Hi-Fi Rush. I hope it wins some awards. I voted for on my votes. I voted for every time Hi-Fi Rush was up for something. I voted for it because I think it definitely deserves flowers. It's one of the best new IPs Xbox has made in years. So I'm very excited to see it get all these nominations, and well deserved. I'm shocked as well. I didn't think it was going to get any nominations because it was so early in the year, and like it's like a more of a niche kind of game. I'm shocked that it got so many nominations, but it's done really well. So I'm happy with that. I mean, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think it's better than God of War. All right. Which I love saying to just wind people, PlayStation fans up. I don't. They're very totally different games, but yeah. I mean, I just enjoy. They're both hack and slash games. That's like my logic, anyway. Is they're both hack and slash games. I just have more fun with Hi-Fi Rush personally, but it's a more of a comedy game, so it's like it's really hard. It is really comparing apples and oranges there, but hey. I just like to say it because I know it pisses people off, so I always say.
Hey, until you complete God of War Ragnarok, I'm not going to hear any of this God of War smack, all right? Because
I like God of War 18.
That's the game
good.
to beat this gen, bro. That's the game to beat.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the reason I blow the dust off a PS5 and play it next year. Maybe I'll actually get around to finishing God of War. I played a bit of it, just didn't get that far into it. I just yeah, I need to go back to it for sure. I like 2018. I thought it was a good game, 2018. It's probably because I just went from one to the other, and it kind of just felt a bit burnt out by the whole thing. We discussed this in the Halloween episode, so
we did.
Yeah. What else is there? So I got a big list of stuff I wanted to discuss. So
Sure.
Let's have a look. What other things do we've talked about most of them actually, which is good. Right. Okay. Dave the Diver is up for best indie game, even though technically it's not an indie game. Is published by a big company, and Baldur's Gate 3 is technically an indie game, and it's not nominated for indie game of the year because it's so popular, I guess. So basically, what does indie mean anymore? Because they're not actually following their own guidelines, because they're not actually indie games are not being nominated for indie game of the year, or and non-indie games are being nominated for indie game of the year. It doesn't really make any sense. Even though Dave the Diver looks great, I think it looks like a really fun game. It's not an indie game, so why is it an indie game of the year? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's what they've said here is they said for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside the traditional publisher system.
Yeah, and it's made inside the publisher system because it's Exxon, I think, makes. I think it's Exxon is the name of the company who made Dave the Diver. So it's like saying, like, is Hi-Fi Rush an indie game? No. It's by Xbox. Yeah. It's like, oh, but it looks like an indie game, so it counts. Like, no. Dave the Diver might be 8-bit, but it's not an indie game, sorry.
And wouldn't that be the same for Dredge as well? Because that's done by Team 17.
Oh, right.
Who
are
a well-known publisher. They do Worms, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
So that's weird as well. Like, the only ones here that I suppose potentially could come up, right, is Sea of Stars. And I imagine that's the one that's going to sweep. Yes. I imagine.
Yeah.
I imagine it's going to absolutely slay that category. Maybe they were just trying to find ones. But do you know what? This is a bugbear for me, is that there's so many great, like, proper indie games that are incredible. And especially in, like, the scene that I follow in terms of, like, the horror scene. Loads, man. Like, absolutely loads of great ones. And they never get the nods, like, ever. On this, I know that's why there's been like the Horror Game Awards, which have just started, and they're going out later on this year. But it does boggle the mind, and I suppose this is where, unfortunately, the whole Game Awards thing does have a kind of fatal flaw in that it's at the whims of critics, right? And they can't know everything, they can't play everything, just like normal people can't, and so there's going to be parts that are missed, and I suppose maybe they're using this as just a way to spotlight some games that are smaller games, even though they don't fit the category that this actually says they should be in. But maybe they're worried that they wouldn't get a vote otherwise, and that's why they just bunged them in, kind of thing.
It's very confusing. Right. No, I feel like they should just like change it to, like, instead of call it best indie game and then have the description. A game designed by a team of under 100 staff, or something like a game made by a smaller team. That's it. That should be what it should be. That should be what it is. If you like want to do, like, because it's not, as I said, the definition they use is incorrect, so it doesn't make any sense. And then by that definition, as I said, Baldur's Gate 3, which is up for Game of the Year, is technically an indie game. So by the same definition, so it's like okay, it's very strange. Like, oh, Last of Us Part 2 is the best indie game ever made. Like, come on now. Use your brain. It doesn't make any sense. What else? So that was literally, there's only, oh, and the last thing I wanted to mention, Cyberpunk 2077 is up for Best Ongoing Game. So basically, releasing a game 2 years ago was complete broken trash, and now it works. Now it counts. Now it gets an award, is it? Because now you fixed it. I don't think that counts as an ongoing game. Honestly, personally, I think. Oh, we released a broken game. We fixed it, so now it's an ongoing game. It's like, well, okay, nice logic. like what? I don't.
Yeah. Does anything now? Does anything that releases a DLC, does that then class as ongoing? Is that how it works now? So this is what they put it is: best ongoing, awarded to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that involves the player experience over time. Now, I suppose Cyberpunk does come into that because you said it was fucked and now it's working, right?
Yeah.
So would No Man's Sky have been in this category a few years ago?
I think it is in this category. Is it in the category? I haven't got the category.
No, it's
yet.
not. So the
It's
category.
best
Yeah, best community they're in for that. So the categories for the awards for these are either Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Genshin Impact, right? So FF14, Fortnite, Genshin, Apex, all they're definitely ongoing games, right? They are live service games. Cyberpunk's just weird.
Yeah, it's a very odd one. They should.
Do you reckon it's just so they could get out what's his face on
Idris Elba
on stage?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, do you reckon it's just so they can get him out? Like they're like, oh, we got to get Idris on. That'd be class.
I mean, he's up for best actor though already, so they don't really need to put him in another award. So
he won't win that though. Ben Starr's gonna sweep that for FF16, bro. I'm telling you now.
Not Yuri, not Spider-Man. Yuri.
No, I mean he's great. He was great, but it doesn't have the same. I didn't feel he had the same impact.
Not young for Yakuza.
Oh, he might do it. Yeah, as you were saying, the community loves that. So yeah, so you could get in there. That would surely spark Twitter off, wouldn't it?
Oh my god, that. People would love that. Yeah, I it's a strange one. I feel like again, it's just the awards they've set, the way they've set the awards up. Like I said earlier, they had a remake if they should have a remake / remastered award, they should have a DLC or expanded content award. Like that would just fix all of it. It's like, and then like, so I'm hoping that next year when the Starfield DLC comes out, then it's up for ongoing game. Then, if that's how the logic we're going with.
Yeah, why not?
Why isn't Resident Evil 4 in there? Because it's just got separate ways.
True. And it had a big 1.8 gig patch.
And they added
massive patch, 1.8 gig, where it's just got, fixed a couple of bugs. Best ongoing game.
Yeah, and they also added, what's it called? What's it called? I was going to say Firefight. Mercenaries, that's
Mercenaries.
it.
Yeah, Mercenaries.
They added Mercenaries after the game launched, so it's an ongoing game.
And VR mode coming out
there you go.
Soon. So best ongoing game.
Resident Evil 4.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's really it for the Game Awards. Just wanted to, I mean, is there any game you think, who would you vote for Game of the Year? I think we already just said that. I said Zelda. I think you'll go Resident Evil 4, probably, right?
Oh, I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to pull my mitts up and get Zelda done. Because I'm thinking about this now when it comes to, for my own podcast from PS We Trust, who am I going to vote for? And right now, Zelda should probably clear it, I think. But then I'm like, ooh, I haven't finished it, though. I maybe 30 hours in, but I haven't finished it. So I feel like I need to get it done so at least I can then make a informed decision.
Makes sense. Yeah, I'm the same way. I've played 4 out of the 6 games. So I need to go. I need to play Baldur's Gate and I need to play Alan Wake 2 really to really judge it. I think Alan Wake 2 scares the shit out of me though. I'm terrified to play Alan Wake 2. And then Baldur's Gate 3, I'm still waiting for the Xbox port to come out, which is supposed to be coming out this year. I could just play it on my PC because I got a new PC, so I could play Baldur's Gate on that. But
or any PlayStation, get that dust off, innit?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. I could get
Get
it
your
for PlayStation.
haptics going.
Yeah,
You love all
I
those?
love me some haptics. No, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I suppose I could just buy it for PS5. Yeah, didn't even think of that. Everyone says Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing. I've not played it, but I've heard good things. It doesn't look like my type of game, but then everyone says it's amazing, so I feel like I should try it. I don't know. Have you played it, or have you like?
No, I haven't. And do you know what the reason why is? Because I know I'd love it, but the time investment scares me. And like when we're talking about, we were
Yeah.
saying earlier on the show about these shorter experiences just really nice, right?
Yeah.
Like Spidey took me weeks to complete, and that's 25 hours. If
Yeah.
I'm talking like, multi-100-hour experiences, I did 94 hours to platinum for FF16,
Oof.
and I couldn't do another 100-hour game this year. I can't. Like
No.
it felt like as if that was my job. It took me like 2 months to be able to do it. And people like, they do it in a weekend. They're like, oh, too short, not enough content. And you think, how? Like you didn't sleep. Like you physically couldn't have slept and done this, right? Like I don't understand how these people do play games like that. But maybe it's just being older and having a job and everything else, mate. Maybe that's our downfall. We need to win the lottery or the Omaze house, and then we can just retire and just our games, and everyone can cook and clean for us and do all the adult stuff, and then we can just dedicate, multi-100 hours to these games.
Or you should all subscribe to this channel and get our channel to like 1 million subscribers, and then we can just do the podcast full time. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm the same boat. I spent hundreds of hours on Starfield, spent hundreds of hours on Zelda, and I'm like, do I really have time for another massive game that's going to take up like weeks of my life? Probably not. Like as I said, I've still got loads to do in Starfield. I've still got like another 10 achievements to do on that game. Like I'll have to go back and play it at some point. But so yeah, I don't know. But I've heard Baldur's Gate's great. Let us know in the comments below if you've played Baldur's Gate. I would love to hear some feedback because I've heard some really good things. Yeah, so that's the Game Awards. Woo! Thank you for listening to the X Marks the Box podcast. Follow us at xmarksbox on Twitter or X Marks the Box on YouTube. And follow us on all audio podcast services. Thanks for listening.